Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to How to Make Six Figures Selling Life Insurance. It's Tim Schucker here with Julian Polito. In today's video, live stream, masterclass, whatever you want to call it, we're going to be talking about how to generate your very own high intent term and IUL leads. Julian, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening / afternoon?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. Can't complain. So as people are jumping in here, guys, just drop in where you're calling in from and your name, and we'll give you a little shout out here on the live. Without any further ado, I think we should go ahead and just jump into everything here. So let me share my screen. I'm going to pull up this little presentation I have prepared for you guys, and we're going to dive right on in. Oops. Slideshow. There we go. Beautiful. Can you guys see my screen all right?
Looks good to me.
Cool. Awesome. So let's get started. Guys, in this training, we're going to be talking about how to self-generate high intent term and IUL leads that auto book onto your calendar and practically beg you to buy and write their entire family up for insurance. That sounds good? Well, let me know in the comments down below. Cool.
Sounds horrible.
Does sound pretty terrible if it gets overwhelming. So this is well, do you mind with the keyboard thing? You sound like you're freaking using a typewriter from the 1920s or something.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. So this method is called the Terminator method, and I'm going to show you guys how it works. So who on here is currently selling term or IUL? And we have a lot of people that sell final expense. I know we also got a lot of agents that sell term and IUL. But who on here is currently selling like term or IUL? All right, let's see. See a couple people selling term, one person selling IUL. Cool. So whenever it comes to like generating term leads and IUL leads, with term in general, generally you're going to see people that are like doing either mortgage protection or they're just advertising like term in general. And then with IUL, you're going to see a couple different ways that people advertise it. You get like the tax-free retirement people. There's kind of some other stuff that's mixed in there as well, right? So which one of these like type of leads, because again, generally with term, you're going to see like your mortgage protection and then your general term people. Which one's better, right? So the answer is what we found with mortgage protection in particular, because we actually just recently, like we've run quite a bit of campaigns for mortgage protection, a lot of campaigns for term. What we found is with the mortgage protection game, the getting ads approved on Facebook is just really difficult. So whenever you try to generate leads, like your ads just get rejected and it makes the cost much higher, right? So what we like to do is what we call the niche method, right? And this is basically where you target certain niches or certain market segments with like term or IUL, right? So let me give you guys an example. So what we're going to do is, again, pick like a specific market to target. So as you guys can see here, we got these three circles. One, this big blue circle is everybody who needs term, right? Like everyone who needs term was pretty much just every single person from age 18 to like 50, right? Because if somebody is working, has a job, and has dependents, and they don't have term life insurance, like they definitely need it. So within that, if we want to target people that have some kind of an income, because obviously it's going to be easier to sell things to somebody if they have an income, then we're going to go within this like red circle here, right? So here we have everyone who needs term, and then we're going to go and segment down, and we're only going to want to talk to people that are making like 50K a year or more. And then if we segment even further than that, we're going to pick out this little red dot, this little red dot that says truck drivers, right? So a good example of sorry guys, let me pull this back up. Here we go. A good example of a niche to target would be truckers, right? I'm going to show you guys some examples of how this works as well. Cool. So again, you don't want to just go out and try to run ads of like term insurance to everybody. you want to pick a niche, right? Same thing with IUL, and kind of like target a specific segment of the market, right? So again, the key is to niche down, right? Just because term can be sold to everyone doesn't mean that we should try to sell it to everyone all at once. There's different angles and different ways that you're going to sell the exact same product, right? For example, the reason that an investment banker buys life insurance is very different from the reason that a single mom with 2 kids would buy life insurance. So the thing is, eventually we can target multiple niches. Like you can expand from, hey, let's say you just start with moms and then you go out to truckers and nurses or whatever. You can do that. But in the very beginning, you want to just start off targeting one specific niche and you can always expand out from there. Does that make sense, guys? Are you following so far with the niche method? Cool. Cool. So let's look at some different examples. These are niches. Some of these we have tested and targeted. Actually, most of them we've tested and targeted. Some of these are just ideas that we've had that we're going to test. But basically, these are some examples of different niches. So you could either advertise term or IULs to all of these different people. All of them would be, good markets to advertise to. So nurses, for example, this is a very, very solid one. The good thing about nurses is like, what makes them so good for life insurance is just by the nature of their job, with them seeing dead and sick people all day, right? And there's no better way to put it. They are already like predisposed to be thinking about death, right? They're seeing these things on a day-to-day basis all the time. So it's already like on the top of their mind, right? So when you hit them with an angle talking about, hey, protect your family, or if something happens to you, you're going to be covered with blank, 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 and blank. It already like it hits so much harder than somebody that doesn't really see these things on a daily basis. So nurses is a great example. Expecting parents, current parents, homeowners, truck drivers. Truck drivers is another great one because they see accidents all the time. Who here has ever sold a insurance policy to a truck driver? I know Julian has. I've sold insurance policies to truck drivers. Truck drivers is like a great niche, right? A lot of nurse, truck drivers, parents. These are like really, really solid niches to target. Entrepreneurs and business owners can be a good one too. Usually it's going to be a little bit more advanced kind of stuff. Like you would, maybe be doing like an IUL tax-free retirement kind of deal, which if that's what you want, that would be a good niche to target. But if you just want kind of like a basic kind of policy, I wouldn't go after that market, right? So let's talk about how to pick a niche. So there's a couple things you want to take into factor when picking a niche. The first one is, are they big enough, right? Ideally, you want to have 1 million plus people inside of the US, right? Ideally 1 million plus, but at least 500K. 500K is like the minimum of what you want to do. The other thing too is they have to have money, right? They must be willing and able to purchase. So an example I always give is like, a bounty hunter might make a ton of money, but maybe they don't really care about life insurance because they usually don't have families. Or a high schooler, you might be able to convince a high schooler to buy life insurance, but if they don't have money, like they're not gonna be able to, right? So they have to be willing and able. They have to have the income and they have to have the need/desire, right? Another thing that's good to kind of factor in, this is not a necessity, but it is a good thing to have that can help you. It'll help your close rate and help a lot of things. Is points of tangencies, right? So if you used to work in that niche, like let's say you used to be a nurse or you used to be a teacher or everyone in your family is a truck driver, like that would be a really, really good niche for you to target. The more relatable you are to that market, the easier it's going to be for you to sell them, right? Another example would be, there's a lot of ex-veterans that'll get into the insurance business and then they can target ex-veterans and sell IULs, term, all that stuff. And people like to buy from people that are similar to them. So this is always a good route to take. Other thing to take into account, do you actually like talking to these people, right? This ties in with the tangency, like do you have a point of tangency? If you hate truck drivers or if you hate teachers, you should not pick those niches because you're going to be talking to those people all day long. The other thing too, don't pick people that have like really good employee benefit packages. So like union workers is going to be tough. I listed down like military, police officers, firemen, some teachers, but I mean, I've seen people successfully target all of those. But the biggest thing is just making sure that like there's some way or some angle where like their current policy doesn't cover enough. So if they leave their job, like for example, cops, if they quit their job, they don't keep the policy, right? Um, I have a buddy who's in the military and he has like a $500,000 term policy, but if he leaves the military, he doesn't get to keep that policy. So there's a need for him to have his own life insurance. You just want to make sure that that's actually there and they don't have some kind of like crazy benefit package where they're going to have insurance for the rest of their life, right? So let's just take like an example. So we'll do nurses, right? This is a really, really good one. And once we've decided on that niche, we have to craft our message so that we can basically target these people. So just like an onion, there's layers to how deep you can go when you're coming up with like an angle to that specific market, right? And the deeper that you understand your audience, the easier it's going to be able to market to them, right? You want to be able to understand their desires, their fears, their pain points, their frustrations, and also something that we call the Achilles heel, right? So I'm going to show you guys what that actually means. So what is the Achilles heel? Well, the Achilles heel is basically the one thing that keeps somebody up at night, right? This is the job insecurity, the what if. So, like, for example, a nurse's Achilles heel, I was kind of touching on this a little bit earlier, is like they see death and sickness all day, every day. So they know that if something happens, like it's very, very possible that they could get sick, they could get in an accident, they could get shot, like all kinds of crazy stuff happens, and nurses see all of it, right? So they're thinking to themselves, like, okay, well, what if something happens to me? This is already a thought that's in their mind. And one of the great copywriters, I believe it's, I think it might be Eugene Schwartz, the guy who wrote Breakthrough Advertising. But he says you don't want to try to create desire; you just want to channel existing desire, right? And that's a major major point. So you don't want to try to create desire for something that doesn't exist. You want to channel their existing desire into your product. So nurses already have these thoughts. We just need to channel those thoughts into the idea that they need to get life insurance. Another example, like people already hate paying taxes and they already know they need to save for retirement. You just have to channel that desire into get a tax-free retirement with IUL, right? You're not creating something from scratch. You're channeling existing desire. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. So again, this is kind of the way that we would approach nurses. Like they're seeing this death, they're seeing the sickness, they know that things happen. What if something happens to them? What would their family be left with? So here's an example. We could basically turn this into ad copy, turn it into a video script, all the above. So here's an example, like attention nurses and CNAs. Is it just us or does it seem like the world's getting crazier every single day? More accidents, people getting sick and dying. As a nurse, you see death and sickness every day. We know that anything can happen at any time. What if something happens to you? Do you have a plan in place to protect your family, to make up for lost income? If not, here's your chance, right? We go through and kind of craft this whole message around their desires and their fears and pain points they're already having, right? And then this is just like an example of an ad that we ran in the past. If you guys want, I could probably show you a video ad of like how we channel this. If you do want to see what that would look like, and these are the type of ads we run and make for clients, you can just comment video and I can play it. But this is just kind of like a very basic example of what these ads look like, right? So let's see. I'm gonna take a second. I know it's a little off topic. Let's see. What top 5 carriers do you like the most, and what do you say to people that say their retirement will cover the burial expense if they lost their work? Julian, do you want to touch on this one?
Yeah, I think the top 5 carriers for me is Mutual of Omaha, SBLI, Royal Neighbors. The last 2 are subjective. Transamerica just has a lot of really good options to accept people, and American Amicable. But if I only could pick 5, I would probably have to swap out American Amicable for AIG just because I would need a guaranteed issue to be able to have a really good, clean lineup.
Yeah.
When someone asks me, or when someone says like, oh, my retirement was going to cover the burial, my first question is perfect. And now, do you have anything in place to help your retirement plans, bypass probate and pay out to your beneficiary? Or what does that look like? And then they'll tell me that they don't even know what probate is, at which point I stay the expert and now I'm able to help solve their problem. Yeah. But you just have to make sure you understand that properly, because otherwise you're going to get waxed on that. Because if they do understand probate and you don't, you're going to get you're going to get cleaned up. So just make sure you understand that. But the probate objection overcome is really the way around that.
Yeah, well, the way that works is like if they die, their retirement's going to be locked up. It's going to go into something called probate for, it can be up to 6 months, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julian. Up to 6 months.
No, I can go way longer than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, typically it can last 6 months and beyond, meaning that the money that they set aside in their quote retirement for their kids to cover everything, they won't even have access to for a while. So they're going to end up having to take out a loan anyway. And the reason people get life insurance is it literally pays out instantly. So that's the angle I would take. And
yeah,
it's pretty solid logic there too. Cool. So once you pick your niche, right? Like let's say, for example, you're going to run an ad to nurses to generate term or IUL leads. How do you actually do the targeting? Well, I'm going to contradict everything that this slide says. And basically what you guys want to do is you don't even have to do any targeting on Facebook anymore. Like you can literally just launch it, just set the age, set the states. You don't even mess with interest, careers, lookalikes. The targeting is done entirely with your ad these days. So you don't have to do any of this. All you got to do is throw up your ad on a Facebook and run it. It's pretty simple. All of the work is in the creative. Cool. So ladies and gents, that's all I have for you here in terms of how to generate term leads. I'm going to open it up to questions. If you guys want to see some like examples of different videos or something like that, let us know. Let's see. Do you guys want to see the nurse video that I was referencing earlier?
Yeah, let us know what questions you guys have on this, guys, because I know we've kind of covered a lot.
There we have information overload.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Nice, Kyle. What did you end up writing today, brother? Kyle's a freaking stud.
Yeah, Kyle's a savage. What's up, Kyle?
All right. I see Christopher said he wants to see the video, so I'm going to pull it up here for you guys. Cool. So I'm going to share tab audio. We're going to kind of roll through this. Can you guys see this?
I think, did you say something, Tim? I think you might be muted.
No, I'm not muted.
Are you muted?
No.
Is this happening again?
All right, cool. I'm going to play the video while Julian figures out his headset again. If you guys were here last week, this is the second time. Cool. So before I play this, this is basically like how we kind of the whole training that we just talked about. This is kind of what it culminates into. You're going to create a video, or I mean, we can do this for you and just run all the ads and do everything. But basically, this is how we generate these like really, really quality leads for our clients.
If you're a nurse or healthcare worker, this could be the most important video you ever watch. As nurses, we see death and sickness every day. You know that anything can happen at any time. I mean, I think about it often, but being around sick patients all day makes being a nurse a pretty dangerous job. So what if something happens to you? Do you have a plan in place to protect your family, to make up for lost income? If not, listen up. There's a new program for nurses and healthcare workers to get up to $500,000 in life insurance for as little as $1 per day to protect your family just in case you end up becoming a patient instead of a caregiver. Best part is, you get a terminal illness, the policy will pay you to help cover your medical expense. All you need to do is click Learn More and fill out a 20-second survey to see if you qualify. And I personally, John, will reach out to you. I've been a nurse for 9 years, and over that time, I've realized that the life insurance we get through work is not all that. Here's why. Your job owns it, not you. So if you switch hospitals, your policy is gone. If you quit, your policy's gone.
Cool. So I'm going to pause it right there, right? And you guys see like everything we were talking about in this whole training, like is weaved into this video. You see death and sickness every day. If something happens to you, what's your family going to do, right? The life insurance you get from work is not all that. Here's why. Your job owns it, not you. Like, so we're seeding all these little like seeds of doubt and tapping into the thought process that they're already having. And then you can see up here, it says nurses, meaning that, you know, this ad's going to be shown to nurses on Facebook. Get up to 500K in coverage. You know, most of our ads will say like up to $1 million if you're doing term or IUL. But then we go into a story, right, that basically talks about a nurse who was a single mom and she didn't have life insurance, and what ended up happening put her family in a tough spot. And like, it's all these things that these nurses are already thinking about, or they can imagine themselves in that situation. So it just hits like really, really hard emotionally and just crushes it in terms of generating leads. So wanted to show that to you guys. Let's see. So we got some questions dropped here. Sonal Patel says, my biggest challenge is where to begin as someone transitioning careers. Julian, do you have any input on this? And then I can give my insight as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I see people mess up on is that they don't have any cash and they don't have any cash flow. And if you're trying to like look at insurance as like you're starting your own business, and if you don't have any cash, you don't have any cash flow, your business is a flame and cash is the oxygen. So if you're trying to transition careers, like I had a guy the other day tell me, he's like, man, I'm just going to quit my job right now. And while it sounds like a great idea to quit your job and go all in and da-da-da-da-da, the biggest thing I can probably give advice on is like, you said, so your follow-up question, definitely get some cash. And as far as how much you need, it depends. If you're going into like a captive agency where they give you free leads and everything, just, you know, it is a commission only job. So I might have a few K saved up just to make sure my bills are paid. And I'm like able to kind of cut through the learning curve of not knowing how to sell insurance yet. And if you're going to go independent, I'd say like you need to have at least 3K saved up minimum. And you should hopefully be able to sell. If not, it's probably going to be a wild ride unless you get with a company like, you know, what we do, where we're teaching you how to actually like make this thing happen. But, you know, don't try to do this with like no cash flow and no job. It's like, it's got to be, you got to have time or money or both, right? Like it is a business that you're starting ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. I think the best way to think about it is like, you want to have enough money set aside where if you didn't make sales for like 2 months, you'd be okay.
That's a good, like.
And the other thing too is like a lot of people, they get into this and then they expect like that they can just work 9 to 5 and make this work like right out of a job, like brand new into the industry. I'm going to work 9 to 5 and I'm going to make 6 figures. So the way you need to think about this is you're essentially condensing years of learning into like 60 days, right? So for example, Sanal, I think you do what do you do? Tech, something with tech, right? You probably went to college for that. Maybe you didn't, but let's just assume you did. So that's 4 years of training to get the job you have currently. And then also on top of that, whenever you got into your job, you probably started off in the middle or at the bottom and kind of worked your way up to you're making a decent income. That's a lot of time and a lot of training. if you're going to match that income and go from 0 to that same experience in a different vertical in 60 days, like you're going to have to work your ass off. Most people aren't prepared to do that. They just get into the business and like, cool, I'm going to start making calls and, money's going to fall out of the sky and then I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And it just doesn't work that way. It's like with anything, it's a skill and it takes effort. And the more you put into it, as far as the effort, and the more you put into learning the skill, the faster you're going to be able to make more money and replace whatever income you had from your job. But another thing too that I would kind of add in there is like, if you're leaving your job, part of it is having the mindset that like this can end up outperforming what I'm making for my job, but maybe it won't do that in the very beginning. Like you're investing into yourself and a skill set, and right out of the gate, maybe it doesn't match the income at your job because maybe, I don't know, maybe you're making 150, 200K a year, and it kind of takes a little bit of time to scale up to that. So I would just make sure you're coming into it with the right mindset. You have enough cash, and you are willing to put the effort in to condense the learning curve.
I want to touch on that. You said something there that I really want to touch on really quickly. If I ever hear anyone say that they want to make 20K a month and they're like, I need to make 20K a month to quit my job, but they're making like 3K a month or 5K a month at a job. Just think about, like, say that out loud and then just think about it and just realize how little sense that makes. I just had to throw that out there. I've heard that probably more than anything else. And so I just wanted to touch on that before I jump to the next question. I think we can speed run these real quick.
Yeah.
Because I see a few questions we got to get to, and I got to jump. I got a hard stop. So, what route would you recommend a beginner go? Join an agency or become dependent? This depends on the sales experience and how much capital you have access to. If you're title and cash or have no sales experience, I would probably honestly just go in and try and like do some type of like free lead program or something. If you're actually like you've got sales experience or capital or both, I would probably work with a company like ours, go independent, because if you're not cutting it close to the wire financially and you've got some sales experience, like we can help you with that kind of stuff. And you'll also have enough money to fund your business to enjoy the fruits of your labor being an independent agent and make more money. But it just depends on where you're at. So great question. You want to jump to the next one, Tim? I see.
Yeah, I think that's good. I don't know my target market. Hey, you guys are awesome. Keep it up. How much do we need? I think you touched on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you guys ever going to do IULs, or would you rather just stick to burial and mortgage protection? Yes, we actually just sent out an email yesterday that we're launching IULs. So we have IULs right now. So if you need high quality IUL leads and you want them for a good cost, hit us up. I'll drop the link as well, because that is currently live.
Yep. Good stuff.
We did a test campaign and we're getting IUL leads for like $10 a pop.
Yeah. And then Scott says, so for broke newbies, it sounds like free leads, training program, and accountability program. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have any money and you can't buy leads, like your only option is free leads.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about free lead programs overall. I have acquaintances that like run them, and people I respect that run them. But like for me personally, as an agent,
they're tough to survive unless you're early into it, is what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, you're still relying on somebody else to get you leads. So if they have a lead shortage, or you're not like, to get good at closing, you need to have a lot of leads, and have a lot of leads in a free lead program, you have to be good at closing. So yeah. Would you recommend joining your marketing as a newbie? Julian, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, for sure. It goes back to what I kind of said earlier. If you're in a position where you've got the cash flow and the sales experience, or the sales experience, then yes. If you're the type of person where you're like no sales experience and then like you don't have any cash flow, and I just say this generally, like I don't know everyone's individual situation here. I've just talked to thousands of agents, and so I'm trying to put out the most general, best information I can give you guys. Now, if it's like super niche situations, like obviously there's some nuance, but if you're in a situation where you're like no sales experience, no cash, don't do our stuff, because it's just going to be a tight squeeze. Like, go get some money, get a job, do a free lead program or something like that, and then roll with it.
Yeah. Can you talk quickly about your guarantee? Yeah, I mean, like obviously if we're guaranteeing production, because our guarantee is 20K a month, you have to be making a certain amount of calls, spend a certain amount of leads, use our sales process and all that kind of stuff. But like that's all written out in contract with anyone that we work with. So I can't go into like the specifics as far as like how many dials, how many whatever, because I don't honestly know it off the top of my head. But the way it works is like you come in, it's a conditional guarantee. So we guarantee that you're right 20K a month if you spend the certain amount on leads and make the certain amount of calls, right? And we've kind of done the math to say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, there's no way you're not going to hit 20K a month. So hopefully that answers your question.
Last question, then I got to jump. If you're with FFL, most policies, I'm going to take switch your team. We only work with people that are in the program, so that answer is subjective. But if you're in the program, typically it takes between 2 and 3 weeks to get a switch over. Great question. Cool. Guys, if you have any questions, let us know. We'll see you in the next one.
See y'all next week. Take care.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye-bye.